Okay, so before I get into talking about the episode, the newest episode of this Fate series, I want to quickly acknowledge something. There's two translations out right now. There's a translation that came out earlier today, which is... I'm still gonna compliment the person for going out of their way to translate Fate, because it's a very nice thing to do, but those translations are kind of bad. They're, like, out of sync and kind of bad. And then the other translation that came out later today, which I just finished watching once again, that was by the same people that did the translations last week. So FYI, if you watched Fate earlier today and you saw like horrible translations, you probably saw the first one that came out. I recommend you to go back and rewatch the episode because a better translation came out. Now that I said that, let's begin with this episode review. So, our overall cast, like the heroic spirits, are fucking stacked. There's some really good heroes I have wrote down here I want to cover. So, we have Chiron. Chiron is one that stood out to me, because I was just very surprised to see Chiron a part of the heroic spirit cast, because I think it's well known by now if you watch my Chibi questions, or if you watch my vlogs and stuff like that. I think everybody knows by now I love Smite. I love playing Smite as a MOBA, and it's a game that features, you know, mythological gods, like Thor, Odin, you know, the Morrigan, all of that. Just all sorts of mythology, and all sorts of gods from different pantheons, and Chiron is in the game as well. And when I saw Chiron pop up in this as an archer, I'm like, yo, my boy, my horse boy, my horse boy, Chiron, he's a part of this. I'm like, okay, that's very interesting. I was very surprised and pleased to see Chiron a part of the cast, but then you have Vlad the Third, and then you have, Astolfo? I don't know who that is, but I gotta say right now, that scene with Astolfo or whatever, I'm probably not saying the name right, but that scene in this episode with Astolfo's Ryder, I'm just gonna say Ryder because it's a lot easier, but Ryder's master just straight up teasing and playing with Ryder's body. Like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? So we have Yuri in this. Like, what? Yuri? Okay, just... Okay, Okay, let's just carry on for now. And then we have Jack the Ripper. Oh my god. Jack the Ripper is in this. That's badass as fuck. But the thing is, though, Jack the Ripper is apparently a lolly. I don't know how to feel about that one, but Jack the Ripper is a part of this, and I know about Jack the Ripper quite a bit. I looked into Jack the Ripper's, you know, history, and very fascinating stuff. Very dark and fucked up, but fascinating stuff. And so seeing Jack the Ripper a part of, you know, the cast of heroic spirits is pretty nice. Frankenstein being Berserker, like, oh my god, I did not think I would see Frankenstein. Fucking Frankenstein! Like, oh my god, no, that was such an adorable scene with Frankenstein, where she didn't want to be called Frankenstein. She's like, Bazaka. I'm like, oh my god, it's so adorable. It's so fucking adorable. Like, Berserker, or Frankenstein saying just Bazaka, like, you know, the Japanese tone, just... Oh my god, cute. Too fucking cute. And badass, by the way. Love the design. Just very cute, though. Now, moving over into Team Red, we have it to where we know who Mordred is. For instance, the son of King Arthur, which we do know Mordred's actually a girl, but she doesn't want to be considered a girl. She got very angry when she was considered a girl in this episode, which, like, holy fuck, like... She apparently has some form of issues with King Arthur. It definitely seems like that because of the way this episode showcased that. And also, I just quickly want to say, since we're on the topic of Mordred, I really like Mordred's fighting style. It definitely is something that surprised me with this episode. Even though A1 Pictures, you can clearly see they're going all in, I do like how they're making it distinct enough to know the difference between Mordred's fighting style compared to Saber. Like, they're really showcasing that Saber, when it came to her fighting in Fate Stay Night or Fate Zero, she was always someone that fought with style, like someone of royalty. That's how you could see that fighting style. When you saw Saber fight, it looked like an actual knight, an actual king fighting up against an opponent. But when you see someone like Mordred going in and fighting, she's more of like a brute. She's a savage, just going in there fucking just tearing people up and ripping them apart. In all honesty, her fighting style reminds me a lot of a Berserker instead of a Saber class servant, but still, I love Mordred's fighting style. Very nice. I love her attire as well, her actual armor outfit, and I also love her casual clothing as well, which, oh my god. Like, oh my god, like, the famous outfit from Mordred that I have seen in fan art and stuff. I even showed my first impressions review. That outfit, she wore it in this episode. Like, yo, that was so nice. It was fucking nice. So, Mordred, I'm liking Mordred's character for the looks department, but also just for the style as well of her character, and how she's completely different from the normal sabers we have seen, or the actual one saber we have seen from, you know, Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero. Now, moving over into, let's see, Shakespeare. Shakespeare is apparently a part of this. He's a caster. Shakespeare is a fucking, like, when I think of casters in Fate, like, you know, when I look at Fate Stay Night, and when I look at Fate Zero, when I think of casters, I think of these dark people that just straight up love carnage, and they're just very cruel or fucked up. But Shakespeare's the fucking caster, like, fucking Shakespeare! That is, like, oh my god, if you don't know who Shakespeare is, I don't know what's wrong with you. Everybody should probably have at least heard the name Shakespeare. He's very, very well known, a well-known person in history, so Shakespeare being a part of the cast, I welcome that as well. That was something very surprising. Just like Chiron, I was very surprised to see Shakespeare a part of the cast. And then we have Spartacus. Oh my god, so I love Spartans. I've always loved the movies, the history of Spartans, and all that. I just love Spartans, and I love Spartacus. And seeing Spartacus in this series, seeing how this man is, I'm assuming he is the Berserker class. I think that's what was said in this episode. Basically, Spartacus, the man straight up, his design. Definitely unexpected in terms of design-wise, but it reminded me of what I would love to see if he was in a Fate series, and I'm just glad to see him there. He doesn't seem like he's completely insane or whatever, like normal Berserker classes we know of when we see from Fate Zero or Fate Stay Night, but still, just seeing Spartacus as a Berserker, I'm expecting this man to go complete ham and just wrecking house and all that, because the man's fucking Spartacus. Like, it just... man is Spartacus, so he should probably just destroy bitches. So yeah, basically that's a lot. We have, you know, Semiramis or whatever. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. She is assassin, and I don't really know much about her, so I really have no information about that. I'll have to look into her, you know, history and stuff to see who she really is. Now, Lancer, a part of our, you know, Team Red still, I don't know who Karna is. I have no idea who Karna is, so I don't really know anything about this person's history, the legend, or whatever. But there's a couple of characters that are a part of the Heroic Spirit cast, like, you know, we have, Avis Braun or whatever. I don't really... I feel like I've heard that name before. I feel like I have, but I don't remember. Siegfried, I think that's how you say the dude's name. He is the Saber, a part of the Team Black side. Siegfried, I've heard the name. I know the name has been used in games, manga. I know the name is very important. I've heard the name before, but I don't know the legend of the person. I don't know if the person was like a heroic knight, a king. I have no idea, but I have heard the name before. But I don't know the legend either, so that's another thing I'll probably need to look into. Unless you guys recommend me not to do that and just be surprised whatever, you know, they showcase in this series. But yeah, that's pretty much the entirety of the cast from what we know so far. I think I've covered everyone, like I've gotten through all of them. So far, I'm pretty interested in the character Shiro Cotto. That's the character that really stood out to me in this episode, because when I was watching the first episode, I didn't really notice it. Like, I didn't put two and two together, but Shiro Cotto, that character design, the name, and all of that is a straight reference to Shiro. Shiro from Fate Stay Night. That name. But Cotto is a reference to Cotto Kyurei Cotto. For instance, the man that's the main antagonist, like the villain of Fate Zero, and also one of the main villains of Fate Stay Night. Kyurei was the priest. He's like, rejoice, boy. You know, he's like, rejoice, rejoice. And so, seeing Shiro Cotto in this, I'm like, I don't want to spoil, because, you know, I played Fate Stay Night, and I've watched it too, and I don't want to spoil things for anyone that has it, because this series, obviously you don't need to see the other series to understand what's going on here, so I don't want to necessarily spoil anything. I don't want to spoil newcomers to the Nasuverse, but Shiro Cotto, obviously that character, either design-wise, that was a nod towards Shiro from Fate Stay Night, or something else is going on here. Since this is set in a different timeline, or like, I guess, a different universe or dimension, it might be the same person, but raised by Kotomine instead, because the last name is Kotomine. So I really don't know, but I just wanted to point that out, that the character definitely stands out to me. I just wonder where that character is going to go in terms of, you know, personality and plot-wise, because the character obviously has some major role to play. Now, another servant I forgot to mention, actually, which I should have already mentioned, is the ruler class servant, Jonah. Now, Jonah, she's a very popular piece of history to use in literature when it comes to manga and anime. It's something I've seen probably most often in any other legend in terms of people in the past, like these legendary people. Jonah is someone that's always been used. And just some recent ones that's happened in recent time, we could think of Drifters, we could think of Shingeki no Bahamut, and then now this. And I mean, there's other stories I have seen when it comes to stuff from Japan that also use Jonah. So this is something not really surprising when it comes to the backstory or the character being used and maybe Fate. And I'm very aware of the history in the past of Jonah, what happened and all that. It just, the ruler class is what really fascinates me. I don't want to dive into the classes of the Third War that happened in Fate Stay Night. I don't want to get too deep into that because spoiler reasons, for heaven's feel, I don't want to really dive into that. But the ruler class is something very different, and I like so far the role of the ruler class. The ruler class is definitely a new thing added into the series that I haven't seen before, because I mean, we're so used to the normal stuff like Saber, Berserker, Archer, Lancer, you know, Rider, Assassin. I mean, we're used to the normal, you know, servants, but the ruler class is a new servant that is kind of like in between both sides, between Team Black and Team Red, which is really cool, and I like how there's like a neutral servant. So most likely, looking at the grand scheme of things, I feel like Jonah's probably going to be the main servant that we're going to be following. I mean, even though Mordred's probably going to be the main servant, I also feel like Jonah's going to be another important servant that's probably going to be one of those main servants that you need to keep focus on because of the role she plays in the series. So that's my overall 2 cents on episode 2. So yeah, good episode. I personally enjoyed it. There was a lot of information and setup for the next episode. There were some action scenes in this episode. Looked pretty good for A1 standards. So yeah, tell me your thoughts in the comments below. I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.